Hello guys, welcome back to the channel with another Noodle film review. Today we're looking at a 1984 slasher called Satan's Blade. This is the Arrow release. It's a 2-disc, comes with a Blu-ray DVD and comes with a rather cool sort of booklet. This film is kind of based on a sort of well, we'll get to that bit in a minute. The beginning of the film starts off with like a bank robbery, which is a really bizarre way to start a film. We just see loads of feet and stuff like that. So we don't see who the bank robbers are. Anyway, they robbed this bank that seems to have very, very little money, and there's two women working at this bank, and so they've just sort of come in, broke in with their guns, and they've robbed all the money, and then they decide to kill the two women anyway. That they shoot these two women, and then they make their escape in the car. No one's seen them because I think the bank's just closed, and they just sort of like managed to get in and rob the place, and then they shoot off, and then we go to this sort of lodge where the two bank robbers are going to hide out. And they take off their gear, and we find out there's two women, and the two bank robbers are two women, and they hide their money in this sort of vent in this lodge. And the two women did it on their own without their boyfriends or whatever. And one of them goes to take a bath and says, "Oh, we must tell the other ones about what we've done or how much we've got," so they get their cut. And the other girl got greedy and she says, "No. He's not getting his cut. It'd be better if we just split it 2 ways." And while the other girl's in the bath, she goes in and she shoots her and kills her. So she wants all the money to herself, and she wants to dump the body in the lake at this lodge. This lodge is like a holiday sort of resort that they're hiding out in. And while this is all going on, we see a shadow on the wall of some other person or creature outside, and it seems to be something else is going to happen. So the girl that's killed the other girl opens the door and gets ready to drag her out to the lake, and gets stabbed in the back, and she gets killed herself. So both of these bank robbers have been killed, and the money is still sat up there in the air vent. And so we then sort of cut to the next day, where we have two groups of people come in. There's a group of 4, 2 couples, and then there's like a little mini bus for the young pretty girls, and they're all going to the lodge. Right, surprise. And the girls haven't booked anywhere, so they want a room for the night. And the guy that runs the place, after speaking to the police about the lodge, and the police are still quite happy for them to open it, he's happy for the girls to stay in the lodge where the murders happened. Anyway, he works there with his mother, and his mother then explains the story of this legend or curse of this area. It's supposed to be like this giant sort of guy that lives in this area, and he used to have free roam of the area, but then people started to move in to this area, and he got sort of moved higher and higher away into sort of like the mountains sort of thing. And then because he was so secluded, he obtained this weapon called Satan's Blade from some sort of evil source, and he goes around killing people. So that's pretty much the premise of the story. And this film sort of follows along these two sort of groups of people, and the two men tend to intertwine with a group of girls that are there, and this little sort of like I don't say romances, but stuff sort of kicking off between the two, and obviously the other girls find out, and all this sort of thing goes on. Plus we've got this legend of Satan's Blade going on, and this story sort of revolves around this lodge side. It's all based around this sort of lodge side, and it's a very for the age of the film, it's actually quite a bad transfer, considering a lot of the films from this time, if you get them now, they look really sharp. but this one doesn't. It still looks really dated, and I love that. I absolutely love that it looks dated. It doesn't look all sort of nice and sort of like remastered. It still looks really dated for its time. It almost feels like a late 60s, early 70s film. So it's got that sort of look to it, which is really cool. What do I think of Satan's Blade? I actually think it's a really cool film. Absolutely love the film. I think it's a little bit underrated, to be honest. I think because it is quite a slow burn, it is a real character sort of relationship sort of film, when it's sort of based on these guys showing an interest in these young girls and all this sort of thing going on, and sort of like some of the young girls sort of disappearing, and it's a typical slasher, but it's a very slow burn, like sort of Just Before Dawn, that sort of slow burny sort of film, and it's a really cool film, really underrated. I personally think it is. The pluses of the film, the transfer is awesome. I love it. It's really bad. It looks really rough. There's lots of noise on the film and grain and sort of like badly cut, sort of like you can see it, and there's sort of like all these lines coming down and stuff. And I love that. It just adds more to the film to me. It just gives it a real charm. The characters are quite likable. The men are really jerks, but they're still quite likable, and the girls are quite nice and quite sweet. They're quite a likable sort of cast. And the story's pretty cool about this sort of blade. It doesn't feature enough, I don't think, the blade. That's so negative about the film. It's like we need more of this legend, this story, and it doesn't really appear really much to do with it until the woman tells you about it, and you don't really see much of it apart from this glowing knife at times, and it's a decent film, really, really cool. So I'm going to score the film an excellent watch and give it an 8 out of 10. And I think that's a really cool score for a film that a lot of people probably think, nah, it's not for me, it's too slow, nothing really happens. But you know what I'm like, guys. I don't want things to happen all the time. If every film was like that, where it was all action-packed, gore, kills, it would be a boring world. It really would. And we'd soon be bored with that. And we'd want, I wish there was more story to it. So it's good to have a good blend of movies that are a bit of both. And this one is more of a story slasher. Very, very cool. Really enjoyed it. Satan's Blade, 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you think of it. I think it's a cracking little film. It's a real charming slasher movie, and if you like it, you really like it. And if it's not for you, you don't like it. It's a Marmite sort of slasher. It's going to be one of those ones where it's too boring for you, or you really enjoy it. And I tend to give every film its merit and credit, because this is someone's work. This is someone's ideas. Their sort of visions, and I've got to give them their credit for doing stuff like that. I wish I was a filmmaker. I wish I could make a film. I really do. And so I envy these people that can make films, no matter how bad it may seem to you. There is always something in it for somebody. And to me, I found this a really cool, sort of underrated, under the radar kind of slasher movie. Really enjoyed it. Guys, till my next video, check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man Film, RS Designs, Pizzawell, I'm the Ice Lord, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Sarah of Horror, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, and of course a massive shout out to my lad Lemon Lord. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.